Blog Talk Radio.
Mi chiamo Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut, Neye EGUA, Medinde Odwirafo, Kwesi, Nehem, Ptah, Akan, Akwamuman, Amaruka, Atifi mu, Odwiraman mu. That means greetings to all Afuraitkaitnut people, meaning African Black people. Today is EGUA Day, Marketplace Day. My name is Odwirafo, Kwesi, Nehem, Ptah, Akan. Odwirafo of the Akwamu Nation in North America, in Odwiraman, the purified nation, Afuraitkaitnut people in the Western Hemisphere. Yet I say we thank you for tuning in to the broadcast once again. If you are on the phone line and you have a question or a comment, you must hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised. If you are logging into the chat room and you want to have a question or make a comment, you must log in as a user in the chat room in order to interact in the chat room. If you do not have a username in Blog Talk, you can sign up for one very quickly, and then you can interact in the chat room. We're going to put a couple of links in the chat room right now for information that we will be going over, the HOODOO MAYN page, and also the Akan Economic Development Model page as well. So, for the individuals who are new to the broadcast, quickly, we have 3 broadcasts on a weekly basis. On Joda, Monday nights, we have Akan fo Nana Song, ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion. We deal specifically with the Akan expression of Nana Song, Afuraitkaitnut, or African ancestral religion, specifically the Akan expression on Joda on Monday nights. We are Akan, of course, but also because of the misinformation that has been propagated with regard to Akan, cosmology, culture, philosophy, ancestral religious practices, ritual practices, the nature of the Great Mother and the Great Father, Nyamewa, and Nyame, the Supreme Being, the nature of the Abosom, the deities, the nature of the Nanano, Nsamako, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our direct blood circle, the nature of the Krawa, the soul, the divine consciousness. So we go into detail about these different aspects of ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion, and we also detail its trustery and its foundation, going back to ancient Khanit, ancient Nubia. We migrated from ancient Khanit to the empire of Ghana and western Afuraitkaitnut to establish that empire a couple of thousand years ago after the fall of Kemet and Khanit. We reestablished the Khanit or Ghana empire in the western part of the continent. And then about 1,000 years later, because of Muslim invasion, some of our people migrated from those regions towards the forest belt and reestablished Akana or Akan civilization in the regions of what is today's Republic of Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire or Ivory Coast. And a few hundred years later, some of our people were taken from those regions and forced into enslavement, Musuo Kesie, the great perversity, the enslavement era, forced into the Western Hemisphere, North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, and Europe. So we have that direct pattern, migratory pattern, cultural migratory pattern, of course, spirit genetic migratory pattern as well, from ancient Khanit to West Afuraitkaitnut to the Western Hemisphere. So we show that trustery and that blood circle when we're talking about ancient, authentic Akan ancestral religion. On Tuesday night, Abinada, we have Ojira. Ojira means purification. It also means a celebration of purification. Those are the 2 definitions of Ojira in the Akan language. Those are also the 2 same definitions for Jira in the language of ancient Kemet, as spelled out in the Medutu, the so-called hieroglyphs. It's the same term, the same meaning, because of course our Akan language, the tree language of the Akan people, is directly descendant of our ancestral language. So Jira means purification, and we deal specifically with Afuraitkaitnut ancestral religion, which we reference as Nana Song ancestral religion in general, no matter what form or expression it takes, whether it's that of the Akan or Yoruba, Ebe or Fon, Fula, Basa, Chokwe, Lobi, Maasai, San, no matter what it is. Even when we've migrated into the Western Hemisphere and continued our ancestral religious practices under the form of Hoodoo, which is the Akan tradition in North America, Juju, which is the Yoruba tradition in North America, Vodou, which is the Fon and Eve tradition in North America, Bambara, the Grigri tradition, which is the Bambara tradition in North America, the Gala Geechee traditions, which come from the Gola and Kisi people in the regions of Liberia, western part of the continent, and so forth. The various traditions that we maintain in the Western Hemisphere are aspects, expressions of Afuraitkaitnut ancestral religion, of course. So no matter what form it takes, we deal with that on Ojira Da, Tuesday, Abinada, Tuesday night with Ojira, and we seek to purify Jira concepts, culture, philosophy, cosmology, ritual practice. We delve into text from ancient Kemet. We delve into the orature, the oral text, ritual processes, ritual practices, cosmology, and so forth, showing how Afuraitkaitnut ancestral religion impacts every aspect of our lives. We say that Ojira, purification, operationalizes Nanasom. Ojira, purification, operationalizes Afuraitkaitnut ancestral religion. Ancestral religion, no matter what form it takes amongst our people, and of course only amongst our people, is in essence the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance. That means through ritual, we incorporate those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to incorporate in order to harmonize our thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. And through ritual, we seek to repel, reject, hate, repulse those things, objects, deeds, and entities we need to reject in order to restore balance to our thoughts, intentions, and actions, and therefore realign ourselves with divine order. So the ritual incorporation of divine law and the ritual restoration of divine balance, those are the expansive and contractive poles of ancestral religion. Afuraitkaitnut ancestral religion, Nanasom, no matter what form it takes. Ojira, purification, operationalizes Nanasom. We seek to purify our thoughts, intentions, and actions every moment of every day so that we can align ourselves and realign ourselves in thoughts, intentions, and actions with divine order. Nyamewa, Nyame, and Sheshe, the order or arrangement in Sheshe of Nyamewa and Nyame, the great mother and great father called Amenet and Amen in ancient Kemet, Nyamewa and Nyame in the Akan tradition. So this is what we deal with on Ojira on Abinada Tuesday night. And of course tonight is Awukuda, also called Akwada, and EGUA means marketplace. So we bring individuals, groups, Afuraitkaitnut people who have founded businesses, organizations, and institutions. We typically bring them onto the show, talk about their businesses, organizations, and institutions, talk about how they are serving the Afuraitkaitnut community in a positive capacity, and also how their ancestral religious values inform their service to the community. So we've had a number of individuals come onto the show. When you go to our Akan Economic Development Model page on our website, you will see the links to all of those interviews, and we will have more people coming onto the show in the coming week. You will see the links to all of their interviews from the Blog Talk radio program, EGUA Marketplace. You'll also see the link to their website. On that Akan Economic Development Model page, you will also be able to download the Akan Economic Development Model publication, which is a free download. This is a publication we have wrote and published. It is an approach to economic development from ancestral religious perspective, a holistic perspective, touching on every aspect of ancestral nation building, the 7 principal values of nation building, which are connected to the abosom that governs 7 days of the week and all natural cycles on Earth. We have 7 principal values of ancestral nation building, which are methods of food production and preservation, number 1. Number 2, a method of curing disease. Number 3, establishing a military structure with defense and offense. Number 4, establishing institutions, training institutions, cultural institutions, religious institutions, and so forth. Number 5, establishing sound systems of governance and jurisprudence. Number 6, the manufacturing and building of homes on acquired land. Number 7, the manufacturing of clothing. So these 7 principal values of ancestral nation building are addressed in our Akan economic development model. Part of that process, the strategy that we use is to starve the beast and feed the pride. That means we make an assessment on a weekly basis to determine what funds we would have potentially wasted with the whites and their offspring throughout the course of a week, and then we starve the beast and feed the pride. We take those funds away from that white business, organization, or institution and reallocate them to the business, organization, or institution of the week. We are targeting one Afuraitkaitnut business, organization, or institution per week for 52 weeks. We began that process in February as a community. We do this for optimal capital infusion. So that means that when you starve the beast and feed the pride, you make that assessment at the beginning of the week. And when you would have normally spent $1 per day on Arizona iced tea and $1 per day on some chips or something like that, and by the end of the week you would have spent $10 at 7-Eleven with the whites and their offspring, and in return receive products that are deleterious effect upon your health. Instead of giving that $10 to the whites and their offspring, you starve the beast and feed the pride. You reallocate that $10 from that business and simply do not spend it, and reallocate that $10 to the business of the week, the organization, business, or institution of the week. That is a $10 infusion of capital. When 1,000 of our people engage that process, then that's a $10,000 infusion of capital into a specific business that allows them to expand their business practices, expand their product lines, expand their services to us as a community, hire our people from the community to work in the business, organization, or institution so that we can be served at a greater capacity so our needs will be met. At the same time, those people will have employment as well, and it can also lead to entrepreneurship as well. So it's a win-win situation. If we do not engage in that process, then by default, we are leaving that $10,000 in the hands of our absolute enemies, the whites and their offspring, whether they are white Asians, white Hindus, white Arabs, white Europeans, white Americans, white Hispanics, white Latinos, white pseudo-Native Americans, no matter what form of non-Afuraitkaitnut, non-Afuraitkaitnut group we're talking about. The whites and their offspring, the spirits of disorder, are absolute enemies without exception. We are financing our own oppression when we leave those funds in their hands. So we starve the beast and feed the pride on a weekly basis, not just boycotting during the pseudo holidays of Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're boycotting, quote unquote, all year forever, consistently, because it's just simply natural to operate in that fashion. So this is what we have with regard to the Akan economic development model. And you'll see that link. We place that link in the chat. We also, on EGUA Marketplace Day, have shows sometimes when we're dealing with the philosophy of economic development, trade, and commerce from an Afuraitkaitnut ancestral cultural perspective. So we talked about Kwamu Kasa, public speech, public rooted in our ancestral religious values. We did a broadcast on that, and of course, because it's an ancestral mandate and it's rooted in our ancestral values, when we do presentations, for example, in different cities, different states, we do not charge a speaker's fee to come out and do presentations. We also stipulate that our people are not charged when they come to hear us do a presentation. Every time we have a presentation, a workshop, seminar, and so forth, our people must be able to attend those workshops, presentations, seminars for free. We also give away a free copy of one of our soft cover books. We have published 17 books. We give away one of the soft cover versions of our books to everyone who attends. So they come to a free presentation. They receive a free copy of one of our books. When they leave that presentation, they have something with them to study as well as share. That is an ancestral mandate. That is part of our ancestral values. So that's one of the things we've talked about. We also did a 4-part series on Akan economic development, the Akan economic development model, where we dissected the model in a 4-part series and showed how it impacts every aspect of our lives with regard to ancestral nation building. We did a broadcast on EGUA, economic warfare, showing specifically and in detail how just as our ancestresses and ancestors were forced into this hemisphere, and once they recognized what was taking place, took note of the terrain, recognized where they were, they strengthened themselves, they plotted, they planned, then they waged war against the whites in their offspring, freed themselves from enslavement, and continued that process until they forced abolition and forced emancipation through waging war against the whites in their offspring. As we were brought into these plantations and these other situations and so forth, we recognized that the whites and their offspring in this new land that we were forced into are the absolute enemy. We recognize one another as allies. We also recognize that every time we interacted with one another, we had any kind of communication, any kind of exchange, material exchange, intellectual exchange, and so forth, that was taking place behind enemy lines. So we took note of that reality. And every time we exchanged information, it was a useful exchange because we knew we were behind enemy lines. We were on plantations and change and so forth. So when you understand you're behind enemy lines, every communication is valuable. Every communication, every exchange of information, every exchange of material should be used as a strike against the enemy until you are no longer behind enemy lines because you have exterminated the enemy. In the same fashion, we are behind enemy lines today. We are living in countries controlled by the whites and their offspring under the cultural influence of the whites and their offspring. So we must establish our own identity, of course, naturally step into that, embrace that, defend ourselves, and recognize that every exchange we have, whether it's information, material goods, and so forth, these exchanges are taking place behind enemy lines. So we must utilize these exchanges in a useful fashion. Every exchange of information should be a strike against the enemy, as long as we're behind enemy lines. Every exchange of material wealth or material goods, material exchange, implements, tools, whatever it is, should be a strike against the enemy. Everything should be part of an overall strategy towards nation building, nation restoration. So we get into that in that broadcast. That's on the Akan Economic Development page, the 4-part series on the Akan Economic Development Model. So that 4-part broadcast is on the page as well. We also have a broadcast, Kwadifo Nehem, self-employment and ancestral culture. When we talk about self-employment, going back to our cosmology, talking about the Kra, the soul, the divine consciousness, the Krawa, the deity dwelling in the head region that regulates all the different aspects of your being. When you align with the divinity in your head region, your personal boson, then you also attune to the specific configuration of energy you have been given by the Supreme Being so that you can execute your function in the world. And when you employ that unique configuration of energy that is unique unto you, then you're engaged in self-employment. And once you engage that process in a harmonious fashion and fully develop your capacities, your potentialities, your full optimal development, and utilize that for your benefit, then you're engaged in self-employment internally, and you can extend that process externally where you can engage in economic activity rooted in self-employment as well in a harmonious fashion. So we deal with that in that broadcast as well. So all of those things you can find on the Akan Economic Development Model page. So as we either have people, guests on the show, or we have shows dealing with the philosophy behind economic development from an ancestral religious perspective, a holistic perspective. And we just gave some examples. One example of that, one great example of that, which turned out to be a successful example of that, is our event that we had a week and a half ago. And this is the second part, the final part of the recap for the Hoodoo Nation Festival. We had our first annual Hoodoo Nation Festival here in Washington, D.C. on October 17th, 2016, so-called 2015. We had a number of people come out. We had a number of vendors selling natural products and so forth. Great information, a great exchange. We had a number of speakers. We spoke on hoodoo people Akan ancestral religion, born of the blood circles of our people in North America. We had Ama Asase Ajay talking about her business, Asase Heals, and how she creates tinctures for healing, formulas for healing from plant life and mineral life and so forth, rooted in an ancestrally guided process, not going to, a regular medical school and learning misinformation about healing and so forth, learning directly from her ancestors and ancestors, guided by that, extracting the medicinal properties of plant life and mineral life to create tinctures that heal our people, heal our nation. So we had Ama Asase Ajay giving a great presentation on that. We had Kamal Makesi Tuhuti, the author of How to Make a Negro Christian, where he was talking about his book, showing how the whites and their offspring in the 12,800s, the so-called 1800s, recognized that our people were waging war, freeing themselves from enslavement, that struck fear in the hearts of the whites and their offspring, so they decided they were going to force Christianity on our people to make us docile slaves. They came up with a meticulous method of introducing and brainwashing our people with Christianity, and they went from plantation to plantation, laying that method out and utilizing that method, employing that method. So he details that in the book, How to Make a Negro Christian. He did a great presentation on that at the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. We received a great response from all of the attendees at the event. We wanted to have this second recap, number one, to show the various businesses and organizations, institutions that took place with regard to being vendors at the event. We want to mention those again because, as we say, we have the Okong Economic Development Model. We have the business, organization, or institution of the week. The past few weeks was Hoodoo Mayn, so it was a special past few weeks because instead of having one business, we had a number of vendors that took part in that event. So the past few weeks, the Hoodoo Mayn Festival was the business of the week, the institution of the week. But within that, of course, are a number of businesses. And when you go to the Hoodoo Mayn publication that we released, you will see the list of these various businesses, organizations, and institutions. So we wanted to continue. Hold on one second. Okay. We want to continue, finish up this recap of the festival. There were some people who emailed us, people called us, sent us messages and communicated with other people as well because they really appreciated the energy of the event. They really appreciated the entire event just as a whole. They appreciated the presentations. They appreciated the vendors. They appreciated the kind of vendors that we had, the diversity of vendors that we had. Of course, our people only, but the diversity of products and services and so forth. So some people wanted to comment. So if you would like to comment on your experience at Hoodoo Mayn, of course, you can call in at any time. Hit the number 1 on the phone line. The call-in number, of course, is 657-383-0635, 657-383-0635. Hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised. And, of course, if you have a question or a comment in the chat room, you can post those questions or comments as well. And we're also, this is also a Q&A for questions on not only the Hoodoo Mayn Festival, but other questions you may have had about different broadcasts, publications, articles, and so forth that we have dealt with in the past. So we want to quickly go through the businesses that participated in the Hoodoo Mayn Festival so we can refresh your memory about the various businesses so you can support these Afuraitkaitnut businesses, organizations, and institutions. We also want to talk about some upcoming events, which we will get into. We have an event coming up on November 7th in Montgomery, Alabama, where we will be presenting on our Kuku Tuntun, the ancestral jurisdiction. On November 15th in Washington, D.C., is our Kokobo movement, eradicating dissexuality, homosexuality in the Afuraitkaitnut community through ancestral religion. And we're going to talk about our book, Kokobo, proving that dissexuality, homosexuality was never accepted in ancient Kemet. We proved that through the text. We're also going to talk about the information we released with regard to eradicating dissexuality, homosexuality through ancestral religious practice, and the cosmological foundation for that kind of ritual practice that can overcome all obstacles, including that perversity that the whites and offspring seek to force upon us. So we're going to get into that as well and talk about some upcoming events in different cities with regard to hoodoo and hoodoo mines. So first, let us go through the list of businesses that took part in the Hoodoo Mine Festival. So, in fact, let us put the link up there real quick. Let me see. Okay, so we put the link in the chat room, odwirafo.com/hoodoo_mine, MAYN.html. When you go to the Hoodoo Mine page, of course, that page has all of the information, the flyer that we had out, the videos that we had out, the different videos that we did leading up to the Hoodoo Mine Festival, dealing with the nature of hoodoo and so forth, also the hoodoo economy, a number of different things we talked about. You will also see the Hoodoo Mine Nhoma, the Hoodoo Mine Journal. We published a journal specifically as the official journal for Hoodoo Mine 13,016. It has a number of articles on hoodoo, talking about the hoodoo Akwamu, the hoodoo doll baby, and so forth. The Akwamu doll from the Akan tradition in hoodoo in North America is called the hoodoo doll baby, the hoodoo Akwamu. We also have an article specifically about the specific hoodoo Akwamu, the hoodoo doll baby, that we were able to reclaim. An Akwamu doll that was found in Virginia in the 1700s, carved by the hands of one of our Akan ancestresses, Nana Akua, and we were able to get that Akwamu doll back. It's the first time back in the possession of Afuraitkaitnut people in America in over 200 years. And that specific Akwamu sculpture doll is part of the Hoodoo Mine Instama Komre, the ancestral shrine, where we engaged the ritual practice, the libation and so forth, and had the shrine there for the entire festival. We have an article on that. We have an article on the spirit genetic inheritance of the Akhan people coming from ancient Khanit. We have an article on that. And then we have some other information, but then we have the list of course, we have the itinerary, the information about the speakers, and then we have a list of visits. We published the journal. Of course, we publish our books. We have 17 books out, including this journal, which is the 17th book. We publish our books in-house, in color. We print them on our own printers and so forth. We publish this journal as the official journal for Hoodoo Mine, the Hoodoo Nation Festival. And we will publish one every year for each festival, this annual festival, dealing with the theme of the articles will revolve around the theme of the festival for that year. But we were able to give away a free copy of this book to everyone who came to the event. And of course, the event was a free event. So people were able to come in for free, shop with the vendors. We had natural live foods and so forth as well, so they were able to eat, communicate with the vendors who were very knowledgeable about not only their own products and services, but about ancestral culture and trustery and so forth. So everyone was able to learn from the vendors, from the presenters, from one another. They were able to connect, network, exchange information. So once they left, they had a new network of people that they can connect with on various aspects of culture, economic development, ancestral ritual, a number of different things. So we were able to give away a free copy of the book to everyone who came out. And we, of course, we do that just in general. That's the way we operate. So when you look towards the back of the book, we're going to go through the vendors connect. Loving My Soaps, LLC, natural soaps, shea butter, cocoa butter, natural lotions, clays, and more. Main ingredients include hemp oil, coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, essential oils, sea salts, baking soda, and so forth. Great company. You can see the website there. And of course, this starts on page 18 in the Hoodoo Mine Journal. So when you go to the Hoodoo Mine page, we not only gave away a free copy of the soft cover version of this journal, but we also have the ebook version of the journal, the full journal, ebook version, PDF version. You can download that journal for free online, so you can follow along here, and you can share that information, of course, with your contact. The second business in the journal, Immortal Art Studios, owned by Ket Haru Tamu, custom-made, handmade talismans and amulets, ankhs with copper, precious stone, a number of different designs rooted in ancestral culture. Not just some, silly design, not just something to make money. These are custom-made amulet talismans that are connected to symbolism that's functional. We don't deal with symbolism for pure symbolism. Every symbol is functional. Every symbol, every structure, every geometric pattern receives, processes, and transmits energy in some capacity. When you have a real symbol, no different than a cell phone, receiving signals, processing the signals, and then transmitting signals. This is what properly structured symbols, whether they are graphic symbols or actual talismans, amulets, and so forth, when they're properly fashioned under the direction of the Abosom and Nsamafo, then you have a real symbol and they are functional. So this is the kind of jewelry that is crafted by the brother Kef Heru Africa's Reascension on Blog Talk Radio. Of course, that is the Blog Talk Radio broadcast by Kamal Mekesi Tuhuti, who was also a presenter. He has a broadcast on Akwesi Sunday nights on Blog Talk Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, unapologetic, uncompromising, African-centered internet radio. We had Asase Yaduru Creation, Ama's Crafts, which were handcrafted knits and stitch, Enchanted Pharmacy, so that's Ama. And then you have Enchanted Pharmacy, which is Afia. And then you have Yao's Kitchen, so Enchanted Pharmacy is hoodoo, amulets, adornments, and body care. Then you had Yao's Kitchen, nutritious and delicious vegan delights. So they were all together as a family, working together with those great products, those three different businesses all working together. Then we had Elements for Nature. Elements for Nature are the exclusive manufacturers and distributors of George Washington Carver's products, the formulas that he fashioned and created. They are the exclusive licensed manufacturers and distributors of his products. And we were grateful to have them there because, of course, we talk about Nana Kwame Afrani, George Washington Carver, and what he was able to do and transform agriculture and so forth, and the implications for us here in this present time. So it was great to have them there at the event. Nikki Fatu Art, she's a graphic artist. You'll see the website there. She's out of North Carolina with great work. You'll see the website there, the email address there, as well as the phone number. You can commission those works and get those works, and she will send you the images and so forth of the great work that she's doing. And of course, it's all culturally grounded. So even when you're dealing with artwork, the images, the symbols, the colors, and so forth, if they are ancestrally guided, then they will affect your spirit in the capacity that stimulates you to align with your crop, your soul, your divine consciousness, your krawa. That's what real art does. It's not just something to look at. It stimulates you to realign yourself with order. If you have artwork coming from someone who has a discordant energy, then when you perceive that, when you apprehend it visually, then the effect that it has on your spirit is a negative, disconcerting, and discordant effect. But when you have someone producing artwork from an ancestrally guided perspective, then the harmony that emanates from those images, those forms, those geometric forms and colors and specific combinations, harmonious combinations, affects your spirit in a harmonious way, seeking and pushing you towards realignment with order. Of course, we had Asase Hills, owned by Ama Asase Ajay, also presenter, as we said earlier. She has healing tinctures, therapeutic oil fragrances, African Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut dolls, children's t-shirts, authentic black soap, and other upliftments, a number of different great products. Our Market and Wellness Center, owned by Aminet Amen and Shango Wande Amen. They're also the owners of the Our Black Comeback Center in Philadelphia, 25,000 square foot center in Philadelphia that they are developing nation-building work right in the heart of the Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut community in Philly. We had Unique Individuals, Inc. And before we say that, Our Market and Wellness Center by Mama Aminet Amen and Shango Wande Amen, handmade clothing items from Ghana, jewelry, cultural, of course, DVD collector items, incense, powder herb, shea butter cream, salves, essential oils, scrubs, Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut artifacts. So all of that with our Marketing and Wellness Center. Unique Individuals, Inc. So this is on page 20. The artist is Phoenix Nebula, great graphic artist, unique, artwork. When you see the artwork, you see that this is nothing. It's no cookie cutter kind of artwork. It's no imitation kind of artwork where you just look online and see something similar and people are just imitating what they see because they think it's popular, may be able to sell. It's ancestrally guided. We flip to page 22. You see Mama K's Live and Raw Foods, that is NISC out of Philadelphia, one of the premier live food culinary artists in Philadelphia. All kinds of food, garden salads, pastas, sea veggies, pizza, soft shell tacos, key lime pie, apple pie, burgers, pâtés, marinated greens, nut loaves, all these different things, all vegan, all live and raw foods and so forth. People who really love the food, and we say once again, Yerase, we thank you to NISC Mama K for what she did was she was number one, the Nana, the elderess who acquired the Akwamu doll for us and assisted us with that, and we appreciate that we talked about earlier. But also she decided to make a contribution, so the proceeds from her sales of the live food at the event, she donated the proceeds to our AKONGUASUA Dine, our institution of learning, healing, training, employment, and entrepreneurship. We are working on establishing a physical space for our institution here in the Washington, D.C. region, and she donated the proceeds of her food sales to that, and we say Yedase once again for that. We thank you for that. Okay, so we have Mama Mawusi Ashakir, thebodytempleinstitute.com, health consultations, herbal products and books, master herbalist certification, natural health information, childbirth education. We also have, give me 1 second. We also have individuals who just took out ads in the journal. In Kingu Health, Dr. Atifi Adiro, naturopathic physician. She also practices her own ancestral religious practices rooted in the Ubunu tradition of Angola and so forth, as well as the Congo. So through that lens, and she's also Gullah Geechee descendant. So through that lens, she utilizes her approach to naturopathic medicine. She's a doctor of naturopathic medicine, certified and so forth, but she operates through the lens of our ancestral culture. Off services owned by Coach Bilal Sankofa, dealing with serving children and families, realigning them with order in the trenches kind of work, not just regular human services and social services work, but the kind of work that transforms lives. Tiwan Tiwa Ipibibine Village, Iya Naila Sankofa out of Austin, Texas. They are establishing a self-sustaining Afuraitkaitnut African-centered village in that area. We also have Nanasom Teku, Nanasom Ancestral Religion Study Group out of Philadelphia. They took out an ad, the Yerase for that. We have Afurakanu cultural tours to Jamaica and the book drive by Kintake Malopenza. And we've had her on the show a couple of times, and she'll be back on the show soon. We have Akoben House owned by Mwalimu Baruti and Enaya Baruti out of Atlanta, of course. Great educators, great publications. Can't say enough about them. Heru, The Birth of an African King, one of the newest books released by Wabet, the Sat Heru. She was on the show talking about her Obs to Shot marketing services. She just published a couple of books and has more books coming out. Comedic children's stories is one of the books, and then the Mas Heru, Birth of an African King, talking about the birth of Heru, the story about Sarah Set and Heru and so forth. What's in Your Womb, published by Ma'as Ma'ak Heru, talking about the natural health, the nature of the womb of the Afuraitkaitnut female, and all of its implications. Ras Eki Kemetic Reiki, which is published book published, parts 1 and part 2, published by Rekit Nia Yad Nebehet Kajara. She has been on the show as well. So Kajara's been on the show. She has Ra Seki healing. She teaches Ra Seki, which is quote-unquote Kemetic Reiki, taking our ancestral religious practice of laying hands to heal our people back to its sources, to our people, our ancestral mandate to engage that ritual process. So she has Ra Seki healing. She certifies people in the Ra Seki healing method. She's also published Ra Seki Volume 1, Ra Seki Volume 2, as well as a number of other books, and she has more books coming out. She has children's books as well. We have Pan-African Design, and you see panafricandesigns.com. When you see that Heru hawk, but the colors of the Heru hawk with the sun disk, with the outstretched wings, but it's in red, black, and green, you know you're looking at that symbol of Pan-African design. And the brother came onto the show in the past. You'll see you can download his the broadcast of the show and listen to his show. And you can go and order the products, order the T-shirts, the sweatshirts, hats, flags, a number of different things. Just Right Technology, owned by Baba Jason Thigpen, dealing with IT from an Afurakanu perspective. Rahimi Mesu Productions, Cultural Rebirth Connection, owned by Dr. Iya Ajua, dealing with curriculums, African-centric curriculums and so forth. Kamali Academy, owned by Dr. Samori Kamara, independent Afuraitkaitnut School. Baba Hoodoo Suya, Pan-African Educational Online Co-op Classes, owned by Inna Njideka Karamo out of Ohio. And we also have, I think we went through everybody. Just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. So you see that, and of course all of these are in the journal. So we just wanted to go through those. So when you look at the Okom Economic Development Model page and you see the different businesses, normally we have one business per week. Over the past few weeks, it was the Hoodoo Mayn was the quote-unquote business of the week, but within that construct, you have these various businesses that make up the businesses plural of the week in this, in this capacity. So now, I want to make sure we saw a question in the chat room. Let me get to that real quick before we move forward. So if you have a question or a comment on the phone line, you can hit the number 1 now. If you have a comment on your experience at the HOODOO MAYN Festival, you can hit the number 1 to share that with the listening audience. And if you have a question or a comment in the chat room, you must log in to communicate in the chat room. A question in the chat room, it says you posted an article you had on last night's show. Can you post that in the chat room? I deleted it from the email. So we posted a few articles last night. So let's see. Let me know. Were you talking about the recent article on Akwamu, Jamain, and the origin and meaning of the name Khanit? Is that the article you're talking about? We can post that. I'll post that right now. And that is an article, of course, that we just released. And we're talking about the origin of the name Khanit and the meaning of the name Khanit. And of course, that term Khanit or Kama can be found as Kama or Jama in Akan, talking about a nation, talking about a people, talking about a landmass, also talking about that fired piece of charcoal that you see as the medut, the hieroglyph for the name Khanit, the term Khanit, talking about black as in being fully fired or burned and so forth. You'll find that same charcoal represented as the name Chama or Kama in the Akan tradition, related to a people, related not only to the fire burning charcoal, but also related to a specific Akan group and their nation and their land and so forth. So we just posted that. Let me know if that's the specific article you were talking about. We also talked about the origin of the term Abosom in ancient Kemet, So let me put that link up there as well, because that may have been the article link that you were talking about as well, because we touched on both of those last night. And of course, the origin of the term Abosom, because last night was sort of a second part to the broadcast we did on Monday night. Joda, so on Akan on Monday night, we had the broadcast with Akwamu, Jamain, and the origin and meaning of the name Khamet. So we went into detail about that, proving that term Khamet, meaning the black land, the black country, Kamal, the black people, and so forth, and the Medut representing the burning piece of charcoal, is all related. The exact same name with the exact same meaning, with the exact same symbolism of the burning charcoal exists in the Akan tradition today as a part of our living culture. So it's not abstract, it's not a mystery. We never stop using names to identify ourselves and never stop using the exact same symbolism of the burning charcoal to identify ourselves, and there's a cosmological foundation for that. So we talked about that on Joda Monday night, and then on Benada Tuesday night, we talked about, on the Ojira broadcast, we talked about Toro, the origin and meaning of the term Toro, or so-called misnomer Neter, talking about deity as defined in the Akan culture and in ancient Kemet. So the term, quote-unquote, Neter, which is really Toro, is the term that we use in the Akan language today, every single day. Toro is part of the living culture, of course, is referencing deity, just as it does in ancient Kemet. We talked about the symbol of the axe representing the deity and why it was represented the deity in ancient Kemet and why the axe represents the deities in Akan culture today as part of the living culture. In all of the shrines of the deities, and when the deities possess, they pick up an axe. So we talked about yesterday how when you see the symbol of the deity seated in Kemet and the little axe in front of them representing the divine, that's a spirit, and then the axe is in front of that spirit. But when these spirits possess our people in the Akan tradition, the first thing they do once they possess the person and get inside their bodies, they will go and grab that axe. So you have the spirit grabbing the axe. The actual symbolism of the spiritual force, the deity, sitting in front of an axe, coming off of the walls of ancient Kemet and manifesting in the culture of our people when the deity possesses and operates the body of the person, dances, walks around, communicates with people, and grabs that axe in that process. So we went into detail about that yesterday. And the document for that, Ntoro, the origin and meaning of the term Ntor, or so-called Neter, the article for that will be forthcoming within the next few days. The article for the origin and meaning of the name Khamet we released the other day. We released on yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, and we released the video at the same time. And we released the video of last night's broadcast on Ntoro. We released that today as well, so you can get both of those. Okay, so Yeni Asera. Okay, that was it. All right. Oh, and also we should have also mentioned one of the businesses. So a couple of people were not able to make it, who were going to come to the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. But then we also had another business who came through, Ama Sankofa and Ama Sekmet as well. They came in out of Connecticut at the last minute. They were going to come to the event, but then at the last minute, they were able to bring products from their store, the stores they worked with as well, there with Brother Kojo out there in Hartford, Connecticut. And they were selling shea butter and natural soaps and, cultural T-shirts and a number of different things. And it was very positive, and we really appreciate them coming out. And they had great experiences as well at the event as well. We appreciate them traveling all the way from Hartford. We had people travel, of course, from Jersey. Amma came all the way up from Tallahassee, Florida. Of course, we had people from Maryland and Virginia and D.C. And Philadelphia. So we had people coming from different states, all converging in to support and participate and experience this Hoodoo Mayn, Hoodoo Nation Festival. Now, this is the first annual one. But as we said earlier in the broadcast, we will be having similar presentations that we did with regard to our publication Hoodoo People, Afurakanu, Afuraitkaitnut, in America, Akan, Custodians of Hoodoo from Ancient Hoodoo Land, Khanit, Nubia, that publication, that book, as well as the Hoodoo Mayn Journal. We will be giving seminars, workshops, and so forth, lectures, presentations on that in different cities. Of course, there's a great interest wherever we go, wherever we have connected with people. There are certain major themes and certain aspects of the information we deal with that resonate most with our people. Of course, the nature of Bebra, reincarnation, and all of its manifestations and all of its ramifications and implications. That is of great interest to our people because, of course, we engage in ancestral communication, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. So when people begin to learn what happens after death, when a baby returns into the world, or when someone becomes pregnant, where does that spirit come from? What side of the family do they come from? Can you determine that? How do we engage that communication with our Nsamanfo, our ancestresses and ancestors? So that whole concept and the reality of Bebra, reincarnation, rebirth, is something that our people are very focused on because it has implications with regard to the way we conduct ourselves every moment of every day. The manner in which you perceive or recognize what happens after death determines to a great measure the manner in which you live your life. If you think you're going to burn in hell, if you think some other nonsense, it will affect the way you make decisions. If you recognize the reality of Bebra and its implications, positive or negative, based on the way you operate in the world and the kind of relationships that you develop, positive or negative, that will impact what takes place when you make your transition. Will you be an earthbound spirit that is suffering on a regular basis for centuries, or will you be accepted into the community of the Nanano Nsamanfo, the spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors, and receive their guidance and direction, as well as the guidance and direction of the Abosom? When you recognize what's taking place, then you make adjustments in the way that you operate in the world every moment of every day. So that's a key, key subject matter that our people hone in on. On the other hand, another aspect of the tradition and the root foundational definition, when we're talking about ancestral religion inherited through our direct blood circle, spirit-genetic inheritance of culture, transcarnational transmission of culture. So we do not learn culture or learn religion from going to someone and then they teach you the religion and they fill your head up with religion and so forth. We are born into the world with religion. Because before our spirits enter the world as Afuraitkaitnut people, and only Afuraitkaitnut people. We go before Nyame, the Supreme Being, the Great Mother and Great Father. They assign specific abosom, specific divinities to us so that we can execute our unique function in creation and have the specific energetic configuration, specific power to execute that function. We're also assigned to specific Nanano Nsamanfo, spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors of our direct blood circle, so they can give us the guidance on how to utilize that power that we have been given, manner that is in harmony with our ancestral makeup. So we have Abosom who are assigned to us pre-incarnation, Nsamanfo assigned to us pre-incarnation. Then the spirit is sent into the womb and then born eventually, a number of weeks later. So when you come into the womb, you're already assigned to specific abosom. You have specific inclinations rooted on the energy complex that governs you. You're already assigned to specific Nanano Nsamanfo, ancestresses and ancestors, and therefore you have a specific way of life based on your clan, based on the dietary and social and ritual taboos and so forth that are connected to your clan, connected to your spirit genetic descent and blood circle. So you have a way of doing things and certain things that you should not do. That is culture, a specific way of life, which you are born into the world with. So people can give you guidance about the nature of that culture, but the culture is given to you by the Supreme Being pre-incarnation. So we are born into the world with a culture. We simply need to unearth that, to return to that, because it's inborn and intrinsic and encoded within us. So those are the kinds of topics that our people are resonating with, because those are foundational to the nature, the notion and nature of our identity, who we are, how we need to function, what we need to do to overcome specific obstacles. When we did the broadcast on Hoodoo, of course the publications on Hoodoo, and then eventually the Hoodoo Mayn Festival, it greatly resonated not only with the people who came to the festival, but people who were not able to come to the festival. But they heard about it and they could feel the energy, and we will be releasing the audio of the different presentations as well, placing that on YouTube so you can download those as well, the audio from Ahmad's presentation and Kamal's presentation, as well as our presentation on Hoodoo, the Akan ancestral religion in North America. So you'll be able to, experience some of that. We also released the Oshue, the libation video, which is just a few minutes, so you can get an idea of what was taking place once we opened up the Hoodoo Mayn Festival. So because people were not able to come, everyone, of course, wasn't able to come, we would like to go out to our people. So we will be having presentations. We do presentations in different cities anyway, but we will specifically do presentations in addition to the ones we normally would do, like on the Kukutuntun, the ancestral jurisdiction, proving that Jesus and Moses, Muhammad, and Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Allah, Yahweh are fictional cartoon characters who never existed, and many of our other books. But in addition to that, we will be doing presentations specifically on hoodoo as well. Ancestral religion born in the blood circles of our people, right where we stand in North America. We are not dependent on going to the continent of Afuraitkaitnut to get initiated and spend thousands of dollars, or going to the Caribbean, or going to someone who has gone to the continent or gone to the Caribbean. We're not dependent on that to legitimize our culture. In fact, you can never legitimize your culture by engaging that process. The only way your culture is legitimized is through your direct blood circle ancestresses and ancestors who transmitted the culture to you. We did not lose our culture when we went through the enslavement process. So hoodoo and juju and voodoo and grigri and Gullah Geechee traditions, these are the ancestral religious practices that were maintained intact in North America. We are only legitimized through our ancestral religious practices when we embrace what we maintain, and we can attune to every aspect of that. If we forget a specific thing, then we can communicate with the deity that first showed us that thing. If we forget a specific kind of herb or root or have to learn about new ones, we can communicate with the forces of nature, as well as our ancestresses and ancestors who founded these practices. They will possess and show us exactly what we need to know. The Hoodoo Mayn and Hoodoo woman are the priests and priestesses in hoodoo. The initiations come through the blood circle. So you don't have to get on a plane and fly to the continent or the Caribbean or connect with somebody who has gone to those places. They can't teach you how to be a hoodoo man and hoodoo woman. That only comes from the people who maintain that tradition right here, and it comes through your blood circle. So we have a priesthood and a priestesshood, not only in hoodoo, but also in juju, in grigri, and every other ancestral religious tradition. So when we go to the different parts of the country, we will be bringing this information and to bring clarification on these various things, and also for taking the time, the capacity for our people to connect with one another. It's not just about coming out to see someone. That's not what we're talking about. Yes, we come out and do a presentation. Yes, we share information, the information that we have. We answer questions, and very often we have multiple hour, 2, 3, 4 hour question and answer sessions and so forth to share information, but it's also our people coming together as a collective, connecting with other individuals who are operating on the same frequency. When you connect with people who are operating on the same frequency, you are rejuvenated by that interchange of energy. So we connect on a periodic basis to rejuvenate ourselves, to connect, to invigorate ourselves and so forth, realign ourselves, be informed by not only the person that's presenting, but also by the individuals who attend, because they have their own life experiences as well. And since they're on the same page and operating on the same frequency, then you learn from the individuals who are there. You become invigorated, revivified, rejuvenated, and so forth, in addition to when we come out and do the presentation, learning directly from what we're giving, what we're sharing from the Nsumafo and the Abosom, but also that collective once they come together. Once we come together as a collective, that becomes a unit that we can become empowered by. So that's part of the process. Periodically, we come together in that manner. So we have an upcoming, of course, so we said Montgomery, Alabama, November 7th. Montgomery, Alabama, we'll be talking about the Kukutuntun, the ancestral jurisdiction. On November 15th, we will be dealing with Kokobo, eradicating bisexuality, homosexuality from the Afuraitkaitnut community through ancestral religion. So we'll be presenting on our book, but also talking about the broadcast we did where we talked about this whole notion of discarnate ancestral spirits and non-relative influencing children as well as adults, trying to push them toward dissexuality and thoughts of dissexuality and urges towards that. And once you eliminate and neutralize those perverse spirits, then those pseudo urges, because they were never really real urges, those pseudo urges are eradicated overnight. So of course our people have the capacity to engage that process. Many of our people, the vast majority who engage in those sexually deviant practices of dissexuality, homosexuality, is a result of torture, of trauma, child molestation, rape, torture, and so forth. So once people overcome specific things through ancestral religion, these scars of this trauma, then they can repel the negative spirits that are influencing them. Some people are influenced by negative spirits. Some people, it's simply by nature of that trauma. And that brainwashing and the brainwashing of the society that forces that mindset on them after they've gone through the trauma. Then the second trauma is the white culture trying to force you into the belief that you should be dissexual because the only reason that happened to you is because deep down inside you were dissexual anyway. So that kind of foolishness is eradicated when we embrace our ancestral culture. We can overcome all obstacles, whether it's drug addiction or any other obstacle, including sexual deviance, when our people are committed to realigning with order. So we're dealing with that. Part of that Kokobo movement, we will be giving away, of course, a free copy of our book, Kokobo, dealing with dissexuality, homosexuality, never existed in ancient Kemet, was not accepted in ancient Kemet. We properly translate those texts to prove that, as well as dealing with the divine prohibition found in the text of ancient Kemet, the Pert and Meru, and so forth. A great deal of information. And also about our ancestral culture and cosmology, and why cosmologically and why the divinities reject, hate, repel, despise sexual deviance in all of its manifestations. So part of that Kokobo movement is to give that book away for free to everyone who comes to the event. But in addition to that, we would like to print out more than just a number of books for the people who come, but print out more so we can give them to the individuals who come out. We will be doing these Kokobo presentations in different cities as well. Give them a number of books, print out over 100 copies. We really want to print out about 200 copies and so forth, so that people can take those books dealing with the divine prohibition against this sexuality, homosexuality, so our people can become grounded in that. They take those books out and give them away free to the people in the community. Every black person, male, female, young, and adult, should have a copy of Kokobo, proving the divine prohibition, bisexuality, homosexuality in our ancient culture, as well as our contemporary manifestations of our ancestral culture and religion. When people get that book and get the real information, that they are armed with proper information to repel all the perversity and conditioning that you get from television, schools, churches, newspapers, social media, psychologists, therapists, all of these, pseudo-educators and so forth. You can combat all of that and crush all of that when you have proper information. And of course, when you engage in ritual practice, you can repel that nonsense spiritually as well. So we recognize that every one of our people should have the copy of the book. The ebook version is free, but then we also have the soft cover version, and we would like to get that in the hands of as many of our people as possible, thousands of our people. So part of the movement is for, our people to distribute and disseminate these publications. Just like the Whites in Arab Spring are constantly disseminating pamphlets and little books, trying to convince our people to be dissexual, homosexual, and, marrying each other of the same sex and all of that perversity. They're constantly passing out free literature to children as well as adults on the street, trying to conscript our people into that perverse behavior and to accept that perverse behavior. We need to be giving out free books that totally destroy everything that they're saying in detail. Cosmologically sound, ritually sound, spiritually sound. and we have that publication. So when you make a contribution or you make a purchase of one or more of our publications, one or more of our 17 books, that assists us in printing out small quantities of free books so that we can give them away. If you make a donation, of course, that assists us when we're purchasing ink and paper and everything else, because we print our own books in-house on our own printers in color. So we're going to put the link to the CocoBo page real quick. And the CocoBo page, Odwirafo.com website. We also have a CocoBo movement page on Facebook. So please like that page and share that page as well. So this is one of the presentations that we're doing and starting off in DC November 15th, but getting back also to the presentation specifically on hoodoo and ancestral religion born in the first blood circles of Afurakanu and Afuraitkaitnut people in North America. So we are looking at different dates to bring this information to the community, and so the community also has a chance to coalesce and connect with other individuals who are on the same page, who are in alignment with hoodoo and so forth, ancestral religion. We're looking at, we've had some inquiries for Florida, as well as Atlanta and New York and Louisiana, different places. So if you would like for us to come out to your city, to your state, to your city, for the hoodoo presentation, dealing with hoodoo people and so forth, our two publications, Hoodoo People and HOODOO MAYN. If you would like for us to come out to your city, simply send us a message via Facebook or on our regular email address. We'll put the email address in the chat room right quick, Akwamuman at Odwirafo.com. But you also can hit us up on Facebook, as well as Twitter and Instagram and, the various social media that we are on. As we said, we do not charge a speaker's fee, and we do not charge an admissions fee for attendees. So the only expenses that we incur, that we deal with, are travel expense and possibly the rental of a venue. Sometimes a venue can be rented for free. Sometimes you find certain venues who may charge $25 or $30 per hour. So for a few hours, you can get a venue for $90 or something like that. But sometimes you can get a venue for free, as long as it's scheduled ahead of time. And first come, first serve, and so forth. So the expense for the rental of the venue, potentially, and the expense for the travel. And we typically utilize Travelocity, Expedia, so we can get the cheapest rates for flights and hotel and so forth, down to like $200 or some places less than $200 for a flight, round trip and so forth. So we work with that. So the only expense that organizers would incur is a travel expense and possibly, but then maybe possibly not, rental of a venue. And then as we continue this process, our goal, of course, is to get to the point where we can just simply schedule these events and organizers will not have to pay for any aspect of the flight or, the travel expenses or the venue. We will just cover all of that ourselves and just schedule these events and move forward. Right now, we're not in the position to do that at every event. Sometimes when we drive out to places, drive out to different states, we can engage that process and there's no cost at all for any organizer. But when we're flying out to different places, sometimes there is a cost. So, for example, when we go out to Florida, there are cheaper flights going out to Florida, less than $200. So if you have a couple of people, 5 people or 10 people who are part of a study group, or just people who who are interested in studying and so forth, and would really like this kind of information to come out, there are a couple of options. People can contribute, and together they're giving each person gives $10 that will help with the flight and so forth. But also we have the no quadifo option. No quadifo is our term for distributor, dissemination of truth. No quadi means truth. No quadifo, the people who disseminate truth. That is our distributor option. Any of our people, if you would like to begin to generate funds, generate revenue for yourself, income for yourself, whether you are not working or you are working but would like to generate additional income, we've had since last year our no quadifo option. Our no Quadifo option is you purchase the soft cover versions of our books wholesale, and then you can sell them retail. You are working for yourself independently. As an entrepreneur, you are not working for us, so you're in control of your own operation. You're simply purchasing different combinations of our 17 books that we have published to date, purchasing them wholesale and then selling them retail. The retail price of our books range between $8 and $11, and the wholesale price is 30% off. So some of our people, if you would like for us to come out, if you would like to generate funds in that fashion, you can order some of the books wholesale, sell them retail, and typically the books sell themselves when people see the colorful covers and the images of the divinities in the book and so forth. They're drawn to that, and when they see it's only $9 or $10, which most of the books are, then they'll give you $9 or $10 for that book. You sell, 20 books to people, then you just generated enough funds to cover the travel expense for our trip out to your city. In addition to that, you've also generated additional income for yourself. So some people will be able to simply generate some of the funds or all of the funds, to work, to establish an event, put together an event, and even more than that, you're actually working for yourself, generating funds for yourself, so you can, do things that you need to do as well. So that is an option as well. So whether you use the Quadifo option, we can utilize that for presentations, or if you simply make a purchase of one or more of our books from the website, or if you make a donation, any donation of $15 or more gives you the option of receiving one or more of our publications. So just let us know when you make a donation which one or more of the books you would like to receive, and we'll send it out to you. Yet I'll say we'd like to thank everyone who has been purchasing some books or made some donations, received a donation today from the Netherlands, as a matter of fact, so Yerase, to the sister for that. And we've sent out books to the Netherlands before. That was one of the people who purchased the books in the Netherlands, purchased the full book set a number of months ago. But, we have people in different parts, not only of just this country, but around the world who are studying this information. So Yerase for the donation, and Yerase to people, of course, here, everyone who's made donations towards the work. Some people made recurrent monthly donations. Some people simply whenever they, feel moved to do so. And we, of course, anytime you would like to receive one or more of those books in return, of course, they let us know. So, Yerase for that. So we have a call on the phone line. We're going to take that. And, of course, if you have any questions or comments on the phone line, just hit the number 1 so that we can see that your hand is raised.
Yes, Kwesi, Ra.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What's up?
Yes. One question. I know you said specific soul days when people are born on the 7-day week cycle. Let's say I'm born on a Thursday, 1 p.m. Will I still be following on the line of that soul day on a Thursday?
Okay, so the key is the day begins at sunrise as opposed to midnight. So, so you're saying like, if not 1 p.m., but say 1 a.m., like 1 a.m. in the morning? So a person's mother, if a woman is pregnant and she goes into labor, it's like 10 p.m. on a Thursday night, a Yauda, and she's in labor for a few hours, and then at 1 a.m., 3 hours later, she gives birth. Well, the whites in their offspring would say it's 1 a.m. Friday morning, because the baby was born at 1 a.m., according to them, Friday morning, then they would say they were born on a Friday. If you followed that, then you would call yourself Kofi. But in reality, the day does not begin in the dead of night at the darkest time of the 24-hour cycle. The day begins at sunrise. So 1 a.m. is still the middle of the night, just beyond the middle of the night. 2 a.m. is still nighttime. 3 a.m. is still nighttime. 4 a.m. is still nighttime. 5 a.m. and so forth. But when you get to sunrise, then that's the beginning of the day. So any time between midnight and sunrise is still nighttime. It's still the previous, so it's still Thursday. So that 1 a.m. Thursday night at 10 p.m. when she went into labor, She was in labor at 11 p.m. She was in labor still at 12 a.m. She was still in labor at 12:59 a.m. and at 1 a.m. she gave birth. If it's still Thursday night, and you would be called a Yao, you would not be called a Kofi or a Friday born.
Okay, I see.
Okay. So, and Yedase, we appreciate the call.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, and we actually did a separate article dealing with that, Sankofa Krada, returning to growing grass, the meaning of the Krada, the soul name. But we also included that information in our Akradim, on our Akradim Bosom page, dealing with the Abosom of the 7 days of the week. And we also talk about that in our book, the Okra Complex, the Soul of Akan Fo. Because when you're dealing with the Kradim, the soul name, Pame and Ama, Kofi and Afua, and Kweku and Akua, Yao Ya and Aba and Kwao, Kwabena, Abena, Kojo, or Kwajo, and Ajua, and Kwesi, and Etsi, and Akosua, and so forth, Akwesi. You're talking about these Akradim soul names and their very different variations. It is important, and these, of course, they apply to Akhan people only. Every other group has their own process whereby they acquire their names connected with their Kra, the Kra or the soul. In the Akhan tradition, we deal with the Abosom that govern the solar, lunar, or planetary body that animates the celestial body that governs that day of the week. And when we're born on that day of the week, then it's an indication of the divinity that we were assigned to pre-incarnation, and therefore we take on the Kratin or the soul's name based on that. But it is key, it's important to know that the day begins at sunrise. So if someone is born after midnight but before the next sunrise, it's still nighttime, but it's not a new day, it's still the previous day. So the brother asked, some people have followed the European cycle, and once, 12 a.m. hits, 1 a.m. hits, then they say it's a new day, so they would end up naming their child Kofi, someone who's born on a Friday, child of the divinity, Fi or Fi, and they would take on that name. And then they'll grow and develop utilizing the name Kofi, which ties them to the Abosom Fi or Fi, which is the divinity Min in ancient Kemet. But actually, they were not born, it was not a Ptah or Friday, it was still Yalda or Thursday. So every time someone speaks their name and calls them Kofi, they're actually invoking a divinity that is not in any way associated with the person. They're rejecting the actual divinity, Yao, which is deity Heru, instead of calling the child Yao or Kwao, and invoking that divinity every time the name is spoken and every time the name is heard, and when the child speaks the name, his own name, and hears his own name, he would be aligned with that force in nature. That's all being rejected because they're following the white calendar, naming themselves based on the white calendar, associating themselves falsely with a deity that has nothing to do with them, and therefore they're spiritually disjointed and discordant on a regular basis until they make these adjustments. So that's critical information. Okay, so we're just checking chat room and to make sure we didn't miss anything there. Okay, and as we were mentioning, so we were talking about the potential upcoming event in Florida. What we're looking at is Jacksonville, Florida, in that area, in that region, possibly in the latter part of November. We're also looking at possibly in Atlanta in the latter part of November, and then into December, the early part of December, we're also looking at Tennessee and possibly Louisiana. So if you are in those areas, Florida, Atlanta, Knoxville, Tennessee, as well as Louisiana, send us an email if you are interested in us coming out to your region, and we can see what we can work out. Of course, you can hit us up in the chat room as well, but you can check us out on the email, hit us up on the email with regard to that. Or if it's a specific city that we did not mention, we also have had inquiries from Chicago as well. And of course, we are from Chicago, so we will be going back there to do a presentation. We just just have to have a time to schedule that. So even if we did not mention your city, if you have any questions or comments about that, you can ask that now. You can post it in the chat room. If you have any questions or comments about previous information from previous broadcasts or books and so forth, you can hit the number 1 now on the phone line, or you can post those questions or comments in the chat room. But if we didn't mention your city, you can hit us up as well, and we can connect with you and we can organize something. Because of the quick, moving nature of social media, it doesn't require that we schedule events 3-4 months out. That's really not necessary, specifically with regard to the kind of information we're talking about, because we have our broadcast. This is broadcast number 187. So a number of people get turned on to our broadcast through our YouTube channel, as well as the Blog Talk channel, as well as through Facebook and our publications on our regular website. So the kind of people who are ready to come out and connect, all they need to know is where the event is going to be held and what time. They're already in tune with the information and just want number 1, more clarification, and number 2, to connect with other individuals in a collective who are on the same frequency so they can interact, be rejuvenated, exchange information. We talked about that exchange of information, exchange of material is a strike against the enemy and so forth. All they need to know is where and when, and of course the events are free, so we don't have to schedule events 3 and 4 months out unless it's some huge conference or something like that, and we need to get certain things in place. But because of social media, we can now schedule things out 2, 3, 4 weeks out and get that information out to the people over social media very quickly, and they begin to spread it. It becomes viral, and then we can, get the word out to everybody who needs to be there. So this is why we're looking to schedule these things. People have been asking about these particular states more frequently. And then also people have asked about California, Texas, and different areas, Oklahoma as well. So we're taking all of that into consideration. But if you would like for us to come to your region, simply send us an email, or you can post some information in the chat room. Send us an email on different sites, and then we will connect with you and organize that. What we're looking at, we already have something for the weekend of November 7th, the weekend of November 14th, which is actually November 15th for the Cocoa Ball. So November 21st, November 28th, December 6th, December 13th, December 20th. So we're looking at these potential dates. We're communicating with some people in Florida right now. If you would like to join in that process, if you'd like to make a donation towards that process, we will send you one or more of our books in the process as an option. Or you can engage in the Odwirafo process, as we said, and that way we can begin to establish these dates. The only thing that we do need to do sort of ahead of time is to schedule flights, because the closer you get to the date, the more expensive the flights are. So if you would like to assist in that process, or establish and assist and connect with us so that we can come to your city as well, any purchase of the books or donation, of course, assist. And on the phone line, let's go back to the phone line. Give me 1 second. Okay. On the phone line, number 5532. You had a question or a comment?
Yes, hello. I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to say I appreciate you doing the show tonight, and also a comment based on the other 2 senses that you brought up, that the material been bringing up, about the sense of time and the sense of balance. And I want to say that's really great for our people to be waking up to that and being conscious of that, because as far as the whites and offspring throwing us off far as the time, trying to go with that false notion of 2000, and also with the sense of balance with, for me, thinking of direction, whereas twisted up the east and the west and the north and the south. So I just wanted to comment on that,
Now, you want to comment on the east and west and so forth, or just the sense of time and balance in general?
Actually, those two things pretty much, because like with that direction twisted up, a person wouldn't know which way they're really going, and then with the sense of time, that threw us off a lot as well.
Right. Okay. So now, and what the caller is mentioning when he talks about the sense of balance and sense of time for people who are not aware, we did a publication in Samain Kom and the 7 senses. So we're talking about the 7, well, on one hand, the 7 physical senses, but the 7 spiritual senses we were focused on in this broadcast, or in this publication. So, of course, there's a sense of smell, sense of touch, and, hearing and seeing and all of that, taste. But then we also have the sense of balance. You cannot function in the world without your sense of balance. And that is one of the most important senses. And then the sense of time, which includes spatial consideration. So that's not only on the physical side, but also on the spiritual side. People who can see beyond the physical, they're called clairvoyant. That means they can see beyond the physical. That's a spiritual sense. People can hear beyond the physical, meaning, so seeing beyond the physical, clairvoyant, seeing ancestral spirits walking around, seeing deities when they possess and what they look like and so forth. That's clairvoyant. Clairaudience is hearing beyond the physical, meaning someone can hear ancestral spirits speaking to them. They can hear the abosom communicating with them. They can hear, of course, Nyame and Nyame, the great mother and great father, communicating and so forth. Clairaudience, hearing beyond the physical. Clairalience is smelling beyond the physical, meaning when ancestral spirits come forward, different ones, just like in the physical world, different people have different energy complexes, and the scent that comes off of them is different. When they make their transition, they still have those different energy complexes, and that the scent, or the quote-unquote odor, the scent that emanates from them, from their spirit body, you can pick up on, just like a dog can pick up on the scent. Some people are clairalients, so they can smell or sense through the sense of smell when a different ancestral spirit comes forward or a deity comes forward and so forth. It stimulates that sense, and they can assume. It's a very discerning sense. Then you have clairgustance, which is the sense of taste, physically, but also some people have a shift in their taste spiritually when different abosom and sumapo come forward. They have a sour taste all of a sudden in their mouth, or a sweet taste all of a sudden in their mouth, and so forth. And of course, the sense of taste is very sensitive and very powerful. And the spiritual sense of that as well, that clairgustance. You have clairsentient, a different feeling that comes over. Hot energy moving through the room. A spirit just walked by. Someone becoming very cold and shaking when a spirit comes through the room, a different kind of spirit coming through the room. That clairsentience, you can feel that sense of feeling, touch, but sense of feeling. But then we have that, what we would call clairtimian, the sense of time, the time continuum, which is very important. Someone can go into ritual. You can sit down and meditate, for example, and next thing you know, an hour has passed and you didn't even realize what took place. We experience that when we have a dream. We hit the snooze for 5 minutes. We fall back asleep. We engage in a number of activities only to be awakened 5 minutes later by the snooze. And, of course, in three-dimensional, in the physical world and physical time, you would have not been able to carry out all of those tasks that you actually carried out down to the very detail when you were operating as a spirit in the spirit realm while dreaming. But in the physical world, you couldn't have possibly engaged in all those activities because the spirit moves faster. So there's a shift in the time continuum and our perception of time based on when we're operating spiritually or through the physical world. So our sense of time is key. Some people's sense of time is because their focus is distorted. They can't focus on what's happening in the present. They're quote-unquote spaced out, or catatonic, or focused on what happened in the past and dwelling in the past, or what's happening in the future, or what may be unfolding, what may not be unfolding, and they're disjointed, and people are standing in front of them, talking to them, and they can't hear anything because they're out in another quote-unquote dimension in that regard, because their sense of time is discordant. They're maladaptive with regard to their behavior. They're not taking care of themselves, their hygiene, because their mind, their spirit is on a totally different focus outside of their body and outside of the normal time continuum. So that's very important. The sense of balance, which we would call clear equilibrium, that notion of learning that equilibrium through spirit. So, for example, if spirit comes into the womb and all of a sudden the person becomes dizzy, it throws their equilibrium off for a moment. They can feel through clear equilibrium, their natural sense of balance, if there's a shift in energy, if there's a shift in energy because of divinity or ancestral spirit came into the room. Someone can, through clear Timian, their shift in the time continuum, their conscious focus is thrown off because the spirit comes through and it shifts their consciousness and reroutes their consciousness, and they know some things have taken place. So they go into a ritual space that appears to be 5 minutes of ritual, and it's been 2 hours of ritual because there's a shift with regard to their interaction in the spirit realm. So all of those things are, important, key, just like the physical senses. Our capacity to function in the physical world are dependent on those physical senses, and if they're blunted or not operant, then it's more difficult for us to operate in the physical world, especially with our sense of balance. If you don't have that, you'll just fall over. So our sense of time, if you're not focused on what's happening in the present and can integrate what's happened in the past and what is potentially unfolding in the future, then you're driving a car, you're focused on something else, and you'll crash the car because you're not focused on what's happening in the moment in a harmonious fashion. So your physical senses keep you operating in a harmonious fashion on a daily basis, but the spiritual senses keep your spirit in balance when you're in alignment with them, and of course they're connected to the Abosom of the 7 days a week. When you talk about the different, when you talk about the different directions, east, west, north, and south, of course the White Nile Spring to the north on the top of the globe. What is up and what is down when you have something that's circular out in space? Now, there are certain markers. You have a North Pole, you have a South Pole. You have a specific direction that the Earth spins, quote unquote, counterclockwise. It's not spinning in the other direction, it's spinning in this direction, counterclockwise direction. And of course, the Earth is moving around the sun, orbiting the sun, the Oriya, in one direction. It's not stopping and going backwards and going back around to orbit in the other direction. So there is a sense of direction. We also have the notion in ancient Kemet of south being at the top. It's the front. The south land is the front land. Khanit, the front land. Khanit land, Nubia, the front land, the land of the south, the land of the beginning. The word for west is also the word for right, and the word for east is also the word for left. So the only way you can have west to be at your right is if you're facing south. If you're facing south, left is to the east, so the word for left and the word for east, Aptet, is the same word, and the word for right and the word for left is Aminti, and it's the same word. So we get our orientation by facing the south. And once you face the south and seeing that as the front land, the first land, the foremost land, then you can see what is right, what is left, and then you can spatially orient yourself in a harmonious fashion. So let me know, does that answer the question?
Yeah, yes it does. Yes it does. Because I looked at the one of the journals, and when I was looking at it, I realized that it wasn't Africa. The picture of it wasn't the way that we normally put it when we view it as north being, on the top.
Absolutely, and that's simply the White Narrow Spring. When they're looking at a normal map, they simply decided to turn the map upside down and change the direction of the letters so that north could be on top and south can be at the bottom, so that Europe could be on top and Afuraitkaitnut can be on the bottom. And they also made Afuraitkaitnut, or Africa, smaller than it really is, and made Europe larger than it really is, simply for political purposes. So every time we see a map, we would see Europe on the top, appearing to be subordinating Afuraitkaitnut, or Africa, and then making Europe bigger than it really is, when it's really much smaller. So we can fit the entire United States and parts of China and India and Europe, all on the continent of Afuraitkaitnut, still have room. So, yes, we have to give that proper orientation because it's cosmological as well.
So when it comes to a person following setting up the shrine on the proper side of the room, should they follow the east that we've known, that we've conditioned to know, or should we follow the true east, or the true direction? You know.
Well, now the east is still the east. The only key is if you're facing south, then, for example, the sun, where the sun rises, of course, that's Aptet, that's the east. And where the sun sets, that's Amit, that's the west. So that's going to be the same no matter what. However, if you face the south, then the sun will be rising on your left side. If you turn around and face north, then the sun will be rising on your, right side. So that's the difference. The orientation, the way we stand and what we call, when we face south, the whites in our spring would say, if you're facing south, then you're facing downward. And if you're facing north, then you're facing upward. In reality, when you're facing south, you're facing upward, and when you're facing north, you're facing down or back. So that's all they did was turn the person around or turn the map around and so forth. But the direction that the sun rises, that is the east, that is the Aptet, and the place where the sun sets, and we get our orientation from that, of course, that is where the Amit, that is the west. Even when, no matter what, wherever the sun sets, you know that's the west, that's the real west, the true west. Wherever the sun rises, you know that's the true Aptet, the true east. And we typically place the ancestral shrine in the west or the southwest part of the dwelling.
Thank you.
Okay. And Yerase. And I'm sorry, I say that we appreciate the call, and we appreciate your support. Okay. We want to make sure we didn't miss anything. Hold on one second. In the chat room. And I don't know if we placed the specific, no, we didn't place the links for that. So we also have, let me put this link in the chat room right quick. We did not mention earlier, putting this in. Okay. All right, so the Afuraitkaitnut.ning.com. That is our, we talked about being on social media, Twitter as Odwirafo, Instagram as Odwirafo, YouTube as Odwirafo, Odwirafo on Blog Talk as well, Odwirafo, Kwesi Akan, Afuraitkaitnut on Facebook. So, of course, we're on these various social media platforms. However, and Instagram as Odwirafo as well. But, however, we also have our own separate social media network. It is private. It's one that we pay for. It is on the Ning platform, Ning. Name of our site on that social media network platform is Afuraitkaitnut Nanasom Ntontain Ancestral Religion Network. And the actual address is Afuraitkaitnut.ning.com. Afuraitkaitnut.ning.com. Ning.com. So when you go to that site, you can create a profile. There are questions that you answer. We approve you for that. Then you can create a profile on the site. It's very similar to Facebook. You have your own inbox. You have your own profile page. You can post blogs. People post blogs, post articles, post videos, post discussions in the discussion forum, post events in the events forum and the news forum and so forth. All the different kinds of things that you normally do on Facebook, you can do there. But it's separate. And, of course, it's invitation only. So, of course, only Afurakani and Afuraitkaitnut people are invited. We screen people out and so forth. So that's our own social network. We also have a tab on there for people who start ancestral religion study groups, Nana Som Feku. People have posted their ancestral religion study group meeting times and places in different cities. So you can connect with them, or you can start a group on your own with one or more people, and you can post that information in the group section on the website. So you can join the Afuraitkaitnut.ning.com site, because when you join that, we post all of the information, the latest videos, the latest articles, the latest books, as well as the announcements of what places we will be in, when the next broadcast is coming up. We post it on the Ning site first. When you join the Ning site, you will be on that list. So whenever we send out a mass email to let people know what's coming up, what's happening, you'll automatically be on that list. Of course, we also have an Akan Nanasom, Ancient Authentic Akhan Ancestral Religion group on Facebook as well. And we post information about upcoming events and so forth on Facebook as well as Twitter. But the first place we go to is the Afuraitkaitnut.ning.com website, our own social media network. When the Whites in Arab Spring decide they want to shut certain profiles down because they're too cultural on Facebook or these other media platforms, of course we need to have our own, to the degree that we can, have our own autonomous social media network so our people can get together, share the information that we are resonating with, not waste time with fools who would like to debate on fake religions like Christianity and Islam and Hebrewism and Morishism and Rastafarianism and extraterrestrialism and all of this other nonsense. Just connecting with people who are on the same page, who are building together, who are establishing study groups. Some people have African-centered homeschool collectives or are part of that. People have African-centered or Afuraitkaitnut institutions, businesses, and everything else. So this is what the network is for. So you can join that, and we will also update any upcoming events in different cities. We posted that on that site first as well. As a matter of fact, so we see the link in the chat room. And I made outtake for that. So individuals posting in the chat room, letting us know that it's only a few minutes left in the broadcast. So let me post this last link right quick. The Feku page, which is the Nanasom Feku, which is Afurakani Afuraitkaitnut Ancestral Religion, Nanasom Study Group, Feku. So you can establish a Feku, an ancestral religion study group, with one or more people, in person or online. When you go to our Feku page, you will see that we have a recommended curriculum, publications, our 17 books in order, as well as some links to our other articles in order from the beginning. If you're just starting out learning about this information, out of the 17 books, which one should you read first, which one should you read second, third, and so forth, which articles should you read in order so you get the fullness of the information. We have that curriculum laid out, that suggested order, suggested curriculum on the Facebook page. When you establish a Nanasom study group with one or more people in person or online, you connect with a person online, you say you want to study on a specific day or study some information and get together on a specific day to discuss it, to make sure everybody has the same understanding and then move to the next chapter, the next piece. Whether you do that in person or online, you can get the curriculum from the page, of course, but also on the Facebook page, the Nanasom Study Group page, you will see that our books are listed there, but they are, you get a discount for participating within a group. So if you establish a group by just connecting with a friend of yours online and saying, hey, let's form this study group. We can meet once a week or once every other week or once every 3 weeks and so forth. When you go to the Facebook page, not only do you see the curriculum, but we also have all of the 17 books with the 30% discount because you're part of a group, either founding a group or starting a group. And as we said earlier, that group. It is your group. You're not up under us. You're not, we're not controlling what you're doing and so forth. We have a suggested curriculum based on our publications, but you're establishing a group on your own, autonomous and so forth, and you're moving forward in that fashion. So you can post that information when you join the name site if you would like to, but you get that 30% discount just by virtue of being part of a study group. And we are visiting the different study groups. The first one that developed in Philadelphia, we connected with them a number of weeks ago. And then the South Jersey Ancestral Religion Group, we connected with them a few weeks ago as well in Jersey, just to have a question and answer session, communicate new information and so forth, exchange, and build. And then there are people who are formulating study groups in different parts of the country, and we will be visiting those study groups as soon as they form. We're ready to come out. But also they can be the basis for other kinds of activity. When people establish study groups, then they also begin to establish institutions that they need. A number of the people have children. They would like to pull their children out of public schools and establish a homeschool collective or an independent school. And those are the kinds of things that are born out of these ancestral religious study groups because, of course, you're focused on culture, morality, divine order, how we are to live our lives and so forth. You realign yourself with order, and then everything that you need, whether it's schooling, institution building, agricultural activity, martial arts training, systems of governance and jurisprudence, establishing institutions, training institutions, cultural institutions, ritual institutions, and so forth. All of these things are born out of these collectives that we first begin to establish when we want to connect and study. So you can go to the FECU page, see that information. You can order the books at a discounted price just by virtue of the fact that you're connected to a FECU, and you can move forward in that fashion. And finally, only a couple of minutes left in the broadcast. When you look to the Nhoma page, the publications page on our website, you'll see the 17 books that we have published, all the various titles dealing with different aspects of ancestral religion, culture, identity, cosmology, and so forth, revolution, resolution, nation building, restoration. You'll see that we just added a new option. The books range between $8 and $11. If you order 10 books or more, it's automatically 30% off. So the first 10 books, for example, are $66 because it's 30% off. Then we have a 30% off price for 11 books, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. We created a new option recently because sometimes people, of course, they ask what books should be studied up front, but the first 5 books are foundational that are the basis for all of the other publications. So we have a deal for the first 5 books, which is Kuku Tuntun, the Ancestral Jurisdiction, which deals with the cosmological foundation of creation, the nature of Afuraitkaitnut people, the origin of the whites and their offspring, rooted in dissexuality, homosexuality, and so forth. Also the origins of the fictional cartoon characters of the Bible, Quran, and Talmud, proving that Jesus, Yeshua ben Pandera, Abraham, Isaac, Moses, Solomon, Sheba, David, Menelik, Muhammad, Allah, Yahweh, Brahman, Buddha, all of these characters are fictional cartoon characters who never existed of any form or of any race. And we proved that conclusively in the book. That book is first, Ubin Sheng, talking about our ritual practices, nature worship, talismans, amulets, ritual song, ritual dance, spirit possession, idols, nature worship, ancestral shrines, deity shrines, all these various things that we engage in, they have functionality. They're not purely symbolic, they are functional, receiving, processing, and transmitting energy in a measurable fashion. Libation, all these different things. So we talk about the nature and function of these various ritual practices and their validity and their functionality in the Ubin Sheng, the Ancestral Summit. Then we have Afuraikai, the origin of the term Africa, proving that, of course, the term Africa comes from Afuraka. We show that in the Medutu and dispose of all the false etymologies rooted in, European languages and so forth, which is foolish. Modernity, the divine law and divine hate. So we talk about the 2 poles of divine order, divine law or love and divine hate. And we go into detail about that in that book, seminal work. Divine order is comprised a divine law or love, which is the same word, and divine hate, the expansive and contractive poles of divine order, and the expansive pole, law or love, is governed by the deities Ma'a and Ma'at, male and female divinities. We did a whole broadcast on the deity God Ma'a and his relationship to the goddess Ma'at. On the contractive pole of divine order, divine hate is governed by Benna and Abinah, which is Eru Behudet and Sechima Sekhmet and Ancient Kemet. They're the male and female forces of contraction, divine hate. So, Madanechi, divine law and divine hate, very important text. And, you know, that's one of those seminal works. So, you have the Kukutuntun, Ubin Shang, Afuraitkaitnut, the origin of the term Africa, Madanechi, divine law and divine hate. And then we have the Okra complex, the soul of Akan, talking about the nature of the soul, the deity that dwells in the head region, a specific divinity, a personal divinity that communicates directly with us, and all of our spirituality in reality revolves around our alignment and realignment with that divinity. When we align with that force in nature, we are aligning with divine order. When we're out of alignment with that force in nature, then we manifest depression, anxiety, discordance, and disorder in general. The Abosom and Nsamafo, the deities and ancestral spirits, give us the power and the guidance, respectively, to align with that divinity in our head region so we can execute our function in creation. So the Okra complex, the soul of Akan, deals with the nature of the soul. It is a deity that dwells in the head region that guides us throughout the course of our lives if we align with it. So those 5 books are seminal and are the foundation for all of the other 12 publications. So we have a deal specifically for those first 5. It's $40 for the first 5 books. So of course, that's just basically $8 a book. So we have that deal, which is permanent. It's not a sale, but it's a permanent feature. Any order of 10 books or more, automatically 30% off. But are just books in general, even if you order 1 or 2 or whatever, they range between $8 and $11. One of our books is $11, one is $8, and the other 15 are either $9 or $10. So we keep them as cheap as possible. So when you go to the Nhoma page, any purchase, we also have a monthly book subscription. If you would like to make a recurring donation, you can receive 1 or more of our books in the mail on the same date every month. You can, of course, cancel whenever you feel like it just by going into PayPal and cancel. So we have those various options so that not only can we feed the people information, we give the ebook versions of our publications out for free, but at the same time, we have the soft cover versions, and that is what assists. That is what we utilize the revenue from that to do these free presentations, free workshops, travel to different cities and so forth, and connect with the Afuraitkaitnut community, with our people. So you can go to the Nhoma page, the publications page, if you'd like to support the work that we are doing. We're trying to schedule these different events in these different cities as soon as possible, and also generate the funds to print out the books, gather the materials to print out the books for the free book giveaways as well. So if you can make those purchases tonight, tomorrow, whenever you get the information, please do so, because we have a couple of events coming up very quickly on the 7th and the 15th. But then even the events later on in the month, once we confirm everything, once we connect with individuals in those cities, we still have to have time to order the ink and everything else for the free book giveaway so we can give that information out. And the largest one, of course, will be for the Kokobo movement. Bisexuality, homosexuality is not part of our culture, was never accepted in ancient Kemet, and eradicating bisexuality, homosexuality through ancestral religion. We want to print out at least a couple of 100 Kokobo books to give them away for free. And you'll see after a while people on the trains, buses, and so forth walking around with our books, including that Kokobo book, that divine prohibition against bisexuality, homosexuality. Excuse me. And so this is what we're moving forward towards, and that's coming up on the 15th. So we need to get those books, start the printing process as soon as possible. So again, yet I'll say we thank you for tuning in to the broadcast. If you have any questions or comments, send us an email through the email address on the Odwirafo.com site, or through Facebook, or through Twitter and so forth. Connect with us there and let us know what questions you have. So again, Yerase, we thank you for tuning in, and Yebeshiabio, we will meet again. That's it.